Welcome back to the details. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held a meeting on Saturday with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research Ayman Ashur. Presidential spokesperson, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, said the meeting that also was joined by Presidential Advisor for Urban Planning and the head of the Armed Forces Engineering Authority, tackled state efforts to develop higher education facilities in Egypt and to review updates on progress made in projects to establish new universities across the nation. President el-Sisi gave directives over studying newly proposed plans to develop historical Cairo in such a way that restores its grandeur. The president has been urging the state-of-the-art redevelopment of the area in order to mitigate the challenges posed by the need to restore large numbers of buildings as well as the high density of the population. Egypt slammed the Israeli allegations at the International Court of Justice that Egypt was responsible for blocking aid to Gaza from the Egyptian side. Head of State Information Service, Dia Rashwan, said that Israeli officials, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have repeatedly said that they would not allow aid into Gaza, especially fuel. He added that Egypt had the sovereignty on the Rafah crossing, while the other Gaza is subject to Israeli control. At the International Court of Justice, a second day of hearings was held on Friday into a case brought by South Africa in which it accuses Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. To the situation on the ground. For the 99th day, Israel pressed on with its offensive in the Gaza Strip in defiance of the ongoing deliberations at the ICJ over its war against the Palestinians and growing calls for a ceasefire. Gaza Health Ministry said in a statement on Saturday that 135 Palestinians were martyred and 312 others were wounded in the past 24 hours alone. Thus, total of 23,843 Palestinians have been martyred and 60,317 have been wounded in the Israeli aggression on Gaza.
For the 99th day, Israel's war against the Gaza Strip continued, killing and wounding dozens of Palestinians. Gaza Health Ministry said in a statement on Saturday that 135 Palestinians were killed, 312 wounded in the previous 24 hours, adding that a total of 23,843 Palestinians had been killed and 60,317 have been wounded in Israeli strikes on Gaza since October 7th. Palestinian medical sources said civil defense teams recovered bodies of 20 people, including women and children, who were killed in the Israeli shelling of a house in the Gaza City's district of Daraj. In southern Gaza, witnesses reported Israeli bombardment in the early morning and said strikes hit areas between Gaza's southern cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah, two cities that are crowded with people who fled Israeli ground offensive in other parts of the enclave. Also, 11 people have been killed by single airstrike around dawn in a house belonging to the Fayyad family, a prominent name in the city. This as the Palestinian territory suffered under a dire humanitarian situation, grappling with a full telecommunications blackout for a second day. Residents and the telecommunications company said Friday's Israeli shelling cut communications across Gaza.
The UN Humanitarian Office accused Israel of a systematic blocking of its efforts to send aid to the north, and particularly to support hospitals. Head of UN aid agency OCHA, Andrea Domenico, said such a blocking of aid is something that is reaching a level of inhumanity beyond comprehension. Meanwhile, Gaza Strip's health officials said a lack of fuel forced the shutdown of the main generator of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir el-Balah in central Gaza. Still in Palestine, but this time to the West Bank. Israeli occupation forces killed 3 Palestinians, including 2 teens, in the West Bank overnight. The Israeli occupation military said that 3 Palestinians tried to break into the settlement Adora, west of the Palestinian city of Al-Khalil, or Hebron, adding that an Israeli soldier was wounded in an exchange of fire with them. Israeli escalation in the West Bank comes in line with the Israeli war in Gaza and has left over 337 Palestinians martyred by Israeli occupation troops or illegal settlers since October 7th. Egypt expressed a grave concern regarding the US and UK attacks on targets in Yemen, calling on the international community to exert the utmost efforts to reduce regional tension and instability and guarantee navigation security in the Red Sea. In a statement released by the Foreign Ministry on Friday, Egypt said that the current escalation came after Cairo's repeated warnings of regional violence spillover as a result of the continuous Israeli attacks on Gaza. The statement renewed Egypt's call for a ceasefire and the end of the Israeli war targeting the Palestinian civilians to avoid more regional instability and more threat to the world peace and security. To the other hotspot, the United States carried out a second strike against Yemen's Houthi forces, continuing an escalation that threatens a wider regional conflict. The latest strike, which the U.S. said targeted a radar site, came a day after dozens of American and British strikes hit facilities of the Yemeni group in 5 cities. Details.
The United States carried out a second strike against Yemen's Houthi forces on Friday, continuing an escalation that threatens a wider regional conflict seen as a spill of the Israeli war in Gaza. The latest strike, which the U.S. said targeted a radar site, came a day after dozens of American and British strikes on the Iran-backed group's facilities in 5 cities. The U.S. Central Command said in a statement that the guided missile destroyer Carney used Tomahawk missiles in the follow-on strike early Saturday local time to degrade the Houthis' ability to attack maritime vessels, including commercial vessels. The Houthi movement's television channels reported that the United States and Britain were targeting the Yemeni capital Sana'a with raids. The group swore retaliation and continued threatening of Israeli shipping in the Red Sea in support for the Palestinians who are under bombardment and siege by Israel in Gaza since October the 7th. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden warned that he could order more strikes if they did not stop their attacks on merchant and military vessels in one of the world's most economically vital waterways. The U.S. carried out additional strikes against the Houthi forces after Biden's administration vowed to protect shipping in the Red Sea. The guided missile destroyer used in the follow-on strike was to degrade the Houthis' abilities to attack maritime vessels. The Houthi movement's television channel, meanwhile, reported the U.S. and Britain were targeting the Yemeni capital Sana'a with raids.
Head of the Suez Canal Authority, Vice Admiral Osama Rabia, said that the traffic on Egypt's Suez Canal is regular in both directions and there is no truth to reports that navigation has been suspended due to developments in the Red Sea. He said that the Suez Canal is offering its services from both directions, pointing that the navigation traffic will witness on Saturday the crossing of 44 ships from both directions, with total shipments valued at 2.3 million tons.